What's going on, everyone? This is Sheets, and we're going to be going over this UFC card. I guess this is from Abu Dhabi or someplace out there. Um, all I do know is that it is going to be an early start time, which is going to be Saturday at 10 a.m. So everybody make sure that you get your lineups in. And yeah, so it was a very, very strange week. Obviously, last week in DFS, just all kinds of underdogs just started smashing. We had most of them, but couldn't quite find the right combination. But again, the process was good, and anybody that really smashed last week, that's great for you guys. I just was just one or two combinations away, but nonetheless, we're going to go through fight by fight and talk about what I think the best DFS plays are. We'll talk a little bit about lineup construction, but if anything, I'll do a separate video on lineup construction specifically for the throwdown, which is obviously the 150 max lottery win 200,000 type thing. So first of all, we have a really good DFS card because it is 14 fights, right? And 14 fights means usually that you don't have to get too crazy to even, get a unique lineup that has a chance to win. In addition to that, you have a main event, which is not a lock. In other words, you don't have to play the main event to get into the optimal. And unfortunately, a lot of cards are like that, where because of the nature of the main event being a 5 round fight, the projections and the points are just kind of just flow there, and as a result, everybody knows that and everybody plays it, and it becomes very difficult to get unique. However, as we'll get to, this main event is just like any other fight. The reason for that being that although it's a 5 round fight, it's very unlikely to even go that far. So you have, I don't think projections are going to give these guys even, anything more than they would have if they were maybe a 3 round fight. However, I mean, we'll talk about that because it is obviously possible if Cyril Gahn wins, then it goes 5 rounds. But um, I don't see too many variations where Aspinall needs more than 3 rounds to win this fight. If he's going to win, I imagine it's going to be early, but we'll get there and we'll talk about it. So let's just start right from the bottom up. You have Jacqueline Amarine versus Mizuki. Now, I will say also about this card, though, that despite it being a 14 fight card, I am finding underdogs very, very hard to come by as far as good plays. So usually, when you have 14 fights, it's not enough to get underdogs that win. You need underdogs with huge upside. But I have this feeling that on this card, any underdog that you get is going to be valuable. So we don't have to be too greedy about picking underdogs. Like if any underdog even has like decent line value, it's probably a good idea to play them. And obviously all underdogs that are, going up against the more popular fighters, those are always good plays because of the leverage that you get from that. Well, in this first fight, you have Jacqueline Amorim. She's an enormous favorite. She's minus 380. Okay, actually, I take that back. So minus 380 at 9,500 is really not that big of a favorite. I mean, 9,500, you really look to, have guys that are girls that are like minus 500. And in the absence of that, at 9,500, you're going to need to get a first round finish to justify this price. And although Amorim, certainly has that in her, I don't know if the inside the distance line really warrant this price here. So let's take a look at some of these. So Amarin inside is minus 130, and we're talking about VIG adjusted. So I guess that's fine, but it's not like it's a smash play. Let's take a look at her round one prop. Let's see, round one, not bad actually, like plus 240. So VIG adjusted, well, these lines are all over the place, so maybe like plus 260 or something like that. Um, the other thing that could bump her up a little bit is the fact that she has takedowns. So, I mean, let's look at these three because these three fights are the ones that are going to be representative of her best outcomes. And I mean, you look at this, none of these scores really get there at 9,500. And how much more do you want her to do than get, for example, two takedowns? Well, this was the second round. So this is two takedowns, 7 minutes of control time, and an easy sub. That was 100. This one was a sub in like 3 minutes in the first round. That only was 103. And I guess the reason for that was because, she didn't have to go through all this ground and pound. The big score here was the high volume one against Montserrat Ruiz, where she got a takedown, two reversals, and all kinds of significant strikes. But I think that might be an aberration for her. So I think that in a 14 fight card, I think I'd rather go elsewhere um, with respect to prioritizing a favorite. I mean, I'll put her in, and she's certainly going to make my 150 max list, but uh, for openers, I don't think she's a particularly great play. Mizuki, unfortunately, she doesn't win often enough. Um, or does she? I mean, I'm just something about this money line is like a little fishy. When I say that, I mean she's plus 360 or so. At plus 360, well, let's compare. Let's have some fun. Let's compare her to Azat Maxim and Mitch Raposo, for example. Now, there's other things at play with Raposo, but so Raposo is 7K and Mizuki is 6,700 with the same winning chances. Um, so and now we'll get to Raposo. Raposo has other stuff going for him, like takedown upside, but something about Mizuki, just from a math perspective, thinks we're supposed to use her. Now, again, you're not going to prioritize her in 20 max and below, but I think that in 150 max, I don't think there's any reason to X her out. I think she does probably win often enough to throw into the tickets. So we're not going to X her. And if I get, 8, 10, 12% of her, I think I'll be fine with it. All right, so as I mentioned, Azat Maxim versus Mitch Raposo. So 9,207K. And again, these are the metrics that we're kind of been trained to look at. This if you're 9,200, uh, you're a decent play or a good play, I guess. If you're inside the distance line is minus 110. That's the sort of the baseline. Now, again, everything can kind of adjust from there, but you look at Maxim, and his inside the distance line is much worse than that. It's plus 190. Now, normally we can give a pass on that if there are other ways for him to get there, such as having a big grappling advantage. But in this case, I think it's sort of the opposite. I think that Maxim would be the inferior grappler, or at least the even grappler. I don't think that his big paths to victory include a bunch of takedowns and significant strikes. So, and the Maxim is actually a pretty poor play at 9,200. Mitch Raposo, what's good about him is that a couple of things. Number one is in his wins, he's going to be forced to score well because he's a wrestler. And, he doesn't have a lot of control time. He's not the greatest grappler, but he is a good wrestler. So again, if we, again, forget if we think he's going to win, let's presume he's going to win what the odds dictate. In those wins, he's going to score. Okay, because if he wins, it would be because he got a bunch of takedowns and was able to make use of them. So, and not only that, but Maxim is going to have the home field advantage as far as getting decisions go. And while that's a negative for Raposo in betting, it's a positive for him in DFS if you think about it, because remember, DFS, we're looking for what happens in those times that he does win. So if he wins well enough to overcome the pro Maxim bias, then he's even going to be more likely to score well. So I think that Raposo is a pretty good play here. Again, how often does he win? Not a lot, but in his wins, he's going to score well. And the other thing about Raposo, and this is not the reason to play a guy, but it's a good fallback, is there are variations where he loses and still gets there. Okay. In those variations where he gets 5 or 6 takedowns and can't do anything with them, and yet loses that biased decision or even an unbiased decision, um, if none of the other underdogs come in on the card, you're going to have a you're going to have a 40 point in a loss 7K fighter that might be the nuts. So I think Raposo is somebody you really have to almost prioritize. Um, Certainly in 20 max. I don't know if I would do him in 3 max or single max, but I'm trying to find good underdogs, and maybe the combination of those two factors I just mentioned makes Raposo one of the better ones. Hamdi Abdel Wahab versus Chris Barnett. Um, so Hamdi is minus 460 at 9,300. Okay, so he has got a better money line than Amarim, for example. Okay, so let's take a look at. Well, we're not going to play a $9,300 fighter just on money line though, but just to illustrate the point, let's look at his inside the distance line. So Abdul Wahab inside the distance is minus 110. That is right alongside of what we need. And the other thing is that he does have takedown upside. Now, his takedowns were not executed against the best of competition, to say the least. But he is an Olympic wrestler from when he wrestled for Egypt in the Olympics. And Chris Barnett, it doesn't exactly inspire confidence in his takedown defense. The only thing is that it's possible that Andy, doesn't have has a little bit of an ego here, and maybe doesn't want to feel he has to go for takedown. So maybe he just tries to knock him out and keep this on the feet for probably longer than he should. I mean, if he wants to win, he should probably just take him down. But it's possible that in front of some home fans or home-ish fans, he doesn't just go strike quite go for that. But nonetheless, I mean, he certainly does have upside at 9,300 if he does go for takedowns and then gets a bunch of control time and gets a bunch of significant strikes on probably you know, a weak grappler. So I think that he's certainly going to be in play. Barnett at 6,900. What I will give him is that in his wins, he's gonna smash. He's not winning any kind of decision here. Um, he's very, very live though for these meme knockouts, and he's kind of looked at as kind of a joke. Okay, but I saw both of these fights. I mean, one of them live and one of them, whatever. And I mean, for a guy of his stature, let's just call it like that, he's pretty athletic. You got to see it to believe it, but he can get it going. And I encourage you if you want. I mean, if you want, I encourage you to watch his fight against Jake Collier from September of 2022. So everybody played Collier for all the reasons that everybody's going to play Hamdi. That Burnett's a meme. Collier's just going to take him down and just abuse him. And in the first round, that's exactly what happened. And then somehow in the second round, Barnett just kind of overcame it all and just got on top of him and went full on just destruction and just obliterated him. So I encourage you before you completely fade this dude to watch that. Because I think that exact outcome is very, very live here. I don't know what to say. So it's a tough click because he looks fat. He looks out of shape. He's coming off of a fight a year ago where he was just completely non-competitive, but he was coming off an injury. So who knows? I'm gonna get me a little of this. I'll just say. Okay, moving on. Let's look at the order here. All right, Nathaniel Wood versus Jose Delgado. All right, this is gonna be fun. You're gonna have Jose Delgado, who is just nonstop. I mean, he's like nonstop action. He's gonna come after Nathaniel Wood, and Nathaniel Wood's been around the block. So if Nathaniel Wood can withstand the early onslaught, I mean, I think Wood is very, very live to win this fight. Now, again, it's not like this is anything earth-shattering. It's not like he's an enormous underdog here, but I think that he's going to be live. Now, forget all that for a minute. Let's just take a look at the inside the distance line. And I will think you'll see that Delgado looks very, really strong here. Yeah, so Delgado, even like win adjusted is or vig adjusted is plus 140 inside. And for an $8,500 fighter, that's like pretty elite. So he's probably going to show up as a decent play. And this is all the more reason why Nathaniel Wood is going to come into play here. So I do like both sides of this fight. Delgado certainly is the more reason. Actually, I think both these guys are very reasonable in all formats, either single entry, 20 max. I think that both these guys are. I don't even think you're stretching to play. As a matter of fact, I don't even think that Wood is going to be unpopular. I think Wood's going to be, like I said, I mean, people are going to be looking for underdogs. He's a mid-range underdog that people have heard of before that puts up good fights. He's won 4 out of his last 5 or 5 out of his last 6 fights. So why wouldn't, he get some action? So I think I'm with the field on this. I think I like both of these guys. And I do think both of them are going to be somewhat popular, though. All right, Walter Walker versus Louis Sutherland. This is a tough spot for Louis Sutherland here. He had a matchup against Justin Tafa, which I thought he had a better shot at because in that fight there was a there was a path for him to just clinch and wrestle or something like that. But that doesn't seem to be a good path against Walter Walker. So Walter Walker is going to be the obvious play. I mean, he's got 4 straight, like first round or 3 straight first round submission, all by heel hook, actually. Now, in fairness, Tafa and Mays are just 2 of the worst as far as defending stuff. But this Njoku, this was in the first minute. Got him a whatchamacallit, a 122 point huge result here. And he does have the ability to get takedowns also. I mean, he had 4 takedowns against Brzeski, albeit in a loss. This is a tough fade. I mean, I bet you his inside the distance line is going to be better than minus 110 anyway. So let's just take a look at it. Um, sure. Minus 130 or 140 plus the takedowns. So here's the unfortunate reality here. The unfortunate reality is on the metrics, he's an amazing play, which means, as we discussed before, you're gonna have to play Sutherland in MME. Okay, you're just gonna have to because of how great Walker looks. Sutherland is gonna listen. He wins this fight according to these odds 25% of the time, and I'll tell you this: he's not going to be 25% owned. And I'll tell you something else, Walker is going to be jammed. So if you get Sutherland in that 25%, of outcomes, you may not even score all that great. I think Sutherland's path to victory is actually probably keeping this on the feet, and maybe getting some ugly clinch game or maybe get some, but I don't know, maybe he gets a knockout too. I mean, who knows? So, but you are going to always get that leverage. So it's funny, as I walked into this analysis, I was, whining that I didn't have good underdogs, and now I'm playing them in every fight. So, so, so I thought Inoue is not the worst. I thought Raposo is really good. I thought Barnett is worth a shot. Nathaniel Wood looks good. So what do I know? I was coming into this breakdown thinking I'd have no underdogs, and now I'm getting them in every fight. So we're gonna see what happens here. But I do like both sides of this. All right, Mateus Camillo versus Abdul Karim Al Sawadi. Um, this is that mid-range fight salary that is by its nature one you have to respect. Okay, just the way that lineups and results get distributed, you just have a big advantage if you play these 82 8K fighters. Um, they just make the rest of your lineup work. I mean, given the 50K salary requirement, that's the best I can describe this. So even if their metrics are not great, you're going to have to give this a little bit of respect. But let's take a look at this. It's a somewhat easy fight to break down. I mean, it's a pick 'em fight. El Sawadi is probably going to be, I mean, I should say probably. I mean, it's likely, I guess, he goes for takedowns. And as a result, I mean, Al Sawadi's inside the distance line is not as good as Camilio's, but he makes up for that with those wrestling variations. So I can't see any distinction between these two. I mean, Camilio's inside the distance line, or Camilo is certainly stronger. So there's that, but I think the takedown upside from El Sawadi has to make up for that. So I think these two are both about even, and I think you have to play them in pretty much all formats because of the salary. Oh my God, what is going on here? How I can't knock out a single fight? Amarim, I guess, is like the only fighter so far I've been able to maybe get rid of. Goodness, this is going to be ugly. This is one where I'm going to have to spin this into SaberSim, probably let this figure it out for me. It's going to be really hard. To that point, and there's another one. Ludwig Klein versus Mateusz Rebecki. One thing I will say about this fight is that for a minus 135 favorite, if you go through like all the touts in the betting markets and all the videos and stuff, for a minus 135 favorite, he's being treated like he's minus 800, Klein. And Rubeski is getting just no love in the community because, and this is the narrative. He's coming off of three straight hashtag wars. You know, he was against Fahea, against Orobai, and against Duncan. And so as a result, I mean, he's coming in on too short notice. He should take a rest. And Klein has been very well untouched and doesn't have not wearing any damage, and he's just going to be cleaner. Okay, that's great, but isn't that already factored into the line? Why is and I see this all the time. This guy's minus 135, but if you just literally, clicked off, who people like here, who people think's going to win, and you go through all the touts, it's going to be like 10-0 or like 20-1 or something. I have not seen, more than 5% of content people were picking Burbeski, which means that he's probably a good bet. And I will say that in DFS, he's got to be the side here, right? For all those reasons. So first of all, inside the distance, they're exactly the same. Okay. And I think Rubeski probably has the takedown upside. So I'm actually more on the Rubeski side here than Klein. And what has Klein ever done as far as okay? So I say that as far as fantasy points, he had this one performance against Cunningham where he had two takedowns, one knockdown. First, I mean, this is styling, but he was 100-1 favorite. Okay, I mean, what is this? What kind of performance is this against Roberts as a 1,000,000-1 favorite, 86 fantasy points? And here, 89, 86. I don't know, man. I think that even if he wins, he's not going to really even score. He got subbed by Nate Landwehr, lost to Trezano. This is back in 2021 still, but I don't know. I'm not a believer. I don't know what to say. This was a big win against Bahamondes, I guess, but even that, 86. So I'm okay. I'm off of Klein here. If anything, I'll play Rubeski. But again, you have to take a stand somewhere. So no Klein for me, no Amarin for me, I suppose. All right. Ilya Aliskerov versus Youngsung Park. I have this feeling that this is going to be another guy people play. Because he's a guy that people have heard of. He doesn't really lose all that often. And, he fights for your money, all those reasons why people want to play him. The only time he lost, he did lose this weird fight to Andre Muniz, but everything else he's getting dubs, you know? And he did get knocked out by Gregory Rodriguez, who's a freaking animal. But this is back in, you know, 2021 or whatever. Um, I don't know about any of this. I mean, let's look at Alyaskarov. Alyaskarov was coming in as like a, you know, big with big hype. I mean, I was actually at this fight against Phil Hawes and he just destroyed him. Okay. But everybody destroys Phil Hawes. Worley Alves, I mean, what is 2022 Worley Alves? This is not a big deal. And then he got dusted. You know, he got dusted by Robert Whitaker. I mean, I guess that's no shame, but I mean, he just got really killed. I mean, it wasn't even, it was hopeless. Um, and then he got it back against the aforementioned Andre Muniz. So I don't know if I can do it. Well, let's just take a look at the inside the distance line. Okay, so Alyaskarov, he's going to be minus 110. I guess we're just going to have to, but let's I really hope he isn't. I think he's going to be. Let's see, Alyaskarov. Um, no, not really. I mean, it's close, right? It's close to a pick 'em. He doesn't have takedowns, but it's also he's only 9K. So yeah, throw him on the list. And Park, for all the reasons I mentioned earlier, is probably live as an underdog here. Um, so yeah, it's so weird. All right, so here, okay, so this is one I have an opinion on. All right, Nasrat Hakparas versus Quillen Salkild. You have a straight $8,100 fighter versus $8,100 fighter. So we look at the inside the distance lines, and again, I've already said that you need to kind of have respect for this metric or this price tag. But to me, this is easy, you know, because you have both their inside the distance lines are really poor. They're the same, except Salklid, his path is going to be through wrestling. I mean that's pretty much all the research I've done. What I've heard is that that's going to be his plan. Now, again, we can't force him to undergo that plan, but that seems to be what's going to happen, which means that even if he doesn't win inside the distance, he's going to get, you know, enough takedowns to score well. And that, so what that means, I know there's 8 takedowns. I mean, this is, that's no joke. I mean, like 117 at 8,100 wins, you know, so, um, yeah, I mean, this is obviously a much tougher, much tougher matchup. But if in fact he does get it going and gets a win in that way, he's going to get there. So I think that here it's South lead or nothing. I mean, I think you have to just take some stands somewhere. I guess Hakparas is just going to have to suffer. So I think it's South lead or nothing here. I mean, the more I think about it, maybe you're just supposed to do nothing. I don't know. But Salkledge definitely the preferred play, and I guess Hakparas, for me at least, is going to be a DFS fade. Okay, Osman Mirzakhanov versus Alexander Rakic. Boy, I really don't want to play this. I hope that the metrics do not get me there. So this is the deal, though. You have Mirzakhanov, who's got all kinds of power, but then you have Rakic, who has a great chin and a lot of experience and great footwork. I mean, I'd love to just say this is going to be a striking based decision that's not going to score and just X the whole fight out. That would be what I would love to do. So let's see if the metrics will allow it. Let's see. Um, Rockets inside is plus 360. I'm not worried about that. It's this thing. It's the Mirzakhanov inside the distance at plus 170. That is like, that's an insane, not insane, but it's a really, really strong number at 8,300, you know? So I can't exit. I can X out Rakic. I mean, that I can do, but we got to leave Marazakhanov in here. I mean, one thing I guess you could do is you can compare these guys here. Like, first of all, Marazakhanov versus Klein is not even close. I think Mirzakhanov against Al Sawadi is probably not even close either. I mean, so inside the distance line is really, really big. Who were the other 8Ks that we were talking about? Salclid. I mean, I guess you have to respect those variations where Salclid gets the 6 takedowns. I don't know. I still think for whatever reason that Rakic is just not going to get knocked out. I just think his footwork is better, and maybe that's egotistical to think I'm better. My analysis is better than the line here, but I guess I can't put Marzakhanov better than Salclid, I suppose. So okay, Rockets will fade. Maybe we have to play some of Mirzakhanov. All right, moving on up this incredible card, actually. Um, Now we get, oh my goodness, we haven't even done these fights yet. So we have Alexander Volkov versus Jolton Almeida. Now this is going to be the popular underdog. It has to be, right? I mean, all this dude Volkov does is win, and he's 7,200. Not to mention he won as an underdog against Pavlovich. Not even to mention that in his loss here, if you poll the audience, like 85% of the people thought Volkov should have gotten the decision. Um, so I mean, he's got to be played by the public. Um, well, we'll get to him in a second. Let's start with the favorite again. You have Jolton Almeida, who is a takedown machine. I mean, even here's a good example. Even in he got knocked out in the second round by Blades, put his head in a weird position, but before that, 9 takedowns. You know what I mean? Like, and Volkov is prone to be taken down. Okay, so it's going to be no secret what's going to be happening here. Almeida's going to be going for these takedowns nonstop, and Volkov's going to be trying to fade them. Um, if he can fade them, I guess he's a good underdog. Um, but again, because of the name value and because of a lot of other things, I have this feeling that Volkov is going to be a little bit too highly owned, and is in a weird way. I almost want to be contrarian and not playing him. I mean, look, he's only plus 170, and he's down here at 7,200. I mean, how do you not play him? Well, if that's the way people are thinking about this, then maybe we should be fading him and just taking the Almeida money. He's only 8,800 with 125 point upside. If he gets these takedowns or whatever. And again, it's one of those things that the better the takedown defense is or the get up game is of Volkov, the better it's going to be for Almeida because that just means more takedowns. Um, so that's going to be my kind of weirdly contrarian stance is to just not going to play Volkov. It's just too easy. It's just too obvious, you know? So I'll probably be over the field on Almeida. And if I don't have Almeida, I'll probably just have nothing in that fight. Okay. Umar Nurmagomedov versus Mario Batista. So Nurmagomedov's the biggest favorite on the card. He's probably going to win. So I doubt I'm going to be able to play Batista here. Question is what kind of upside does Umar have? And unfortunately for him, his price is just too big for me to play him at 9,600. His inside the distance line is hopeless. The only way he gets there is if he gets like a whole bunch of takedowns at control time, and I don't think that's gonna happen here. I think that Bautista is good enough. I mean, he's all the dude does is win, right? I mean, he beat Ricky Simone, who was supposed to be getting all these takedowns. Damon Blackshear is a grappler. Patty Mix, excuse me, was supposed to be able to grapple him. So while I do think that Nurmagomedov probably wins because of his money line or whatever, I mean, I'm not playing him at 9,600 against this dude. I'm not in a million years. So this fight's going to be a complete fade for me. All right. This is this is the one. Okay, this is the one that's going to be people are going to be live and they're going to you get to fight number two and it's the co-main event and you've got 5 rounds of grappling. Okay, between Mackenzie Dern and Verna Jandiroba. Um, 5 rounds of grappling, guys, can score a ton. All right. I promise you this. So this fight is going to be extraordinarily difficult to keep out of lineups, I think. And I honestly have no idea what's going to happen. I mean, I do know what's going to happen. There's going to be grappling. That's what both these girls want to do, you know? That's just what's going to, well, look at Jandiroba, just nothing but takedowns, no striking pretty much, you know? The only time she really struck was against Dern back in 2020, and she lost. Um, so to me, you're gonna have to play both sides of this. I would say equal amounts, or even you could do market weight. In other words, if Dern is 60% to win or 65% to win, maybe play twice as much. This is gonna be a real tough fight to fade. I guess it's more possible that Dern wins and is not smashing than Jandiroba, but I don't know. I mean, how does this fight play out in 5 rounds with all these reversals and all this control time and all these takedown possibilities and stuff without somebody or both of them scoring a ton? I mean, I'll say this, and I neglected to mention that the when I did my preview that there were two 5 round fights here. Um, As a matter of fact, like if you're playing cash, I mean, this is the fight I might consider just stacking. I really, I don't say doubt, but I guess if there's a finish, it's more likely that Dern gets it than Jandiroba, but I don't know. Very, very difficult fight to fade. I mean, I have a much easier time fading the main event than this one. Speaking of which, Aspinall versus Cyril Gahn. I mean, you have it's a really easy fight, honestly. Like Aspinall is a big favorite, and you look at his inside the distance line, it's probably minus 300, minus like 250, right? We'll take a look at it. Um, Aspinall inside is it's like minus 300. It's like the same as his win odds, pretty much. So if he wins, he's probably going to finish. That's the best way to describe this. Um, but he's 9,400, so he's going to need that. You're going to need probably a first round finish to justify 9,400. And you look at this, Aspinall round one, it's like plus 180. I mean, it's fine, so, but that means that really, I would say 65% of the time he does not win in round one. And I'll say this, that he's probably going to be 40% plus own, maybe 50. Maybe I don't know. So he's a good play. He also has grappling upside, by the way. If he wants to go for grappling, by the way, like Cyril Gahn has been hopeless in the grappling, and that certainly adds to Aspinall. So listen, he's certainly the best play. Okay, his inside the distance line is the best. His round one is the best. His takedown upside of these 90. Well, hold on a minute. Who's a better play? Aspinall? Well, that's not who's a better play. Compare Aspinall to, say, Amarim. Obviously, Aspinall finishes more often and finishes in the first round more often. But who has more takedowns in their wins, for example? Probably Amarim, you know? Aspinall against Walker. Obviously, Aspinall finishes round one more often, I guess, maybe. But who gets more takedowns in their wins? Probably Walker. So the point is that even though he's a great play, you don't have to play him at huge chalk. Okay. You have to play him, but you don't have to play all of them. That's my opinion. And unfortunately, I know it sucks, but the fact that he's going to be 45% plus owned means that you're just going to have to play some Gone in 150 max. You are. I know you don't want to. I know you don't think he's going to win. But one thing I will promise you, I can't promise you, is that he is going to win some amount of the time. He's going to win the fight about, according to these numbers, what, 22% of the time? And when he does, now he's going to have 5 rounds to work with. And so in his decisions, I mean, he's gonna score. He's just gonna have to. And not only that, but he's gonna get probably the most popular fighter on the slate as leverage. So you're gonna have to play him too. So boy, this is a very, very tough card from a DFS perspective. And so to prioritize these guys is really difficult, which is why and sometimes I just make a couple of changes, make a couple of takes, throw it into the blender into SaberSim and let it just kind of do it for me. This way I don't have to bias these things. But I guess like looking back, whew, um, underdogs. Who are my favorites? I I guess none of them. Like when you think about it, maybe Raposo's not even that great because no one's going to play Maxim after all. Maybe Barnett's not even that great because no one's going to play Ham. No, people are going to play Hamdy. Maybe Louis Sutherland is what you're supposed to do. Goodness, you know. I don't think at the end of the day Ludwig Klein's going to be that popular. So maybe Rambeski or whatever is not going to be as great of leverage. Um, Volkov. I guess you're going to end up living in this freaking mid range after all, like with a Salclid, Rabeski. I mean, it's got to be a good play. Maybe this Abdul fight or whatever. Maybe Nathaniel Wood in the mid range. It's going to be really hard, guys. I have to say. I'm going back again. Chris Barnett, sure. 14 fight card. It's a war. It really is. And for those of you who've seen some of my videos, this is not unusual. My usual cop out. I usually am able to knock out like 6 or 7 fights. This one's hard. Um, I hope to do a follow up with more of a lineup construction idea. But until then, that's going to do it. Good luck.